Hi guys, it's Owen from V3 Racing. Today's hot lap tutorial with setup is the McLaren Hockenheim ring, which has been done by another V3 driver named Mike Schepers. Let's get right into it. Okay, so we come onto the lap right now, heading into turn 1. And then into turn 1, Mike is using, I'd say roughly 75 meters, 80 meters as his braking point, lifting off the throttle just after the 100, applying a very small amount of brake, no more than I'd say 40%, as he trails it off just before the apex, picks up the throttle again, and as he reaches the apex of this corner, slowly increases the power, and then is well over 100 before he gets anywhere near the exit of this corner. And then for curb usage, I'd say here, in the McLaren, I think you can get away with using a small portion of this sausage curb, whereas in other cars like the Lambo, you can't get away with using this. But even then, you shouldn't be eating too much of it, because when you hit curbs like these in iRacing, in these GT3s, the car will tend to bounce quite a lot on exit and then run wide. And then curb usage at the end, he's getting the centre of the car just around the exit of this exit curb, the end of this exit curb, sorry, just here. You'll see that the centre of his car does not cross that line. You see at the bottom of your screen there, it doesn't cross the line, which means it's not an off track. Then we've got the run down to turn 2. And then Mike is beginning to brake just before this tarmac sort of road patch here. You know, just after I'd say halfway between 150 and 100. He picks up the brake, about up to 70%, trails it off right till the apex, and he's still braking when he's putting the throttle on. He's really getting on the brakes to try and get the car to turn, which is very important in the McLaren. The McLaren's all about carrying that trail brake all the way to the apex. Picks up the throttle very aggressively and then can go all the way out this section as quick as he can. And Mike, you can see, is prioritising a very good exit here. And you can tell this because he gets right on the power very hard and very aggressive as early as possible. And it's very important for this section here that you prioritise the exit over the corner speed for this section here, because you will feel the benefits of a good exit all the way around Parabolica, which is a long straight up here. Then down the straight, you'll see that Mike hugs the car to the left. I know some people will drift wide, you know, because they don't think it matters, but this is actually a very easy way to pick up lap time. Then into one of the hardest parts from the track, the hairpin, because it's so inconsistent to get your braking point right. This week, me and Mike have found that the braking zones, some reason, do sort of change lap to lap. But anyway, so Mike is starting to brake at the start of this curve. As you'll see, he picks up the brake, start the curb, all the way down to first. And Mike hugs the apex, so he's not trying to turn in too late. It's a nice U-shape sort of hairpin line he's taking here, because he's clipping the apex here, getting aggressively on the throttle, running it all the way out on exit. And then the run up to the Mercedes-Benz Arena. Taking the kink fairly normally, just, you know, letting it run not too wide. You don't want to be all the way out here, otherwise you're really starting to compromise your line to this next left. He starts braking. Again, this is a very tricky corner for braking points, because there's no real solid markers, and he seems to be braking just towards the end of the curb. You see, it's very hard to spot when you're driving, but he starts braking when there's about 3 of these blue squares left, which obviously is not ideal to spot when you're braking. So it's a very feel braking zone, in a way that you need to have a good feel and rhythm with the car and just know where to brake without using a marker. So he's very aggressive with his trail braking here, as you can see by his braking put. He's still carrying a lot of brake pressure all the way through to the apex. Mike runs it quite wide. However, he gets on the throttle quite aggressively to make up for this, and the Macca with this setup, you can see has got quite good rear end traction on out of these corners, because he's able to run it wide and be aggressive with the throttle, and also will be able to get it back in time over to the left for the right hander, which in the Lambo, which you can see my video for, or save up this week, the Lambo, you have to take a very shallow line through there, otherwise you have a lot of issues with rear end traction. Going to here, Mike You see he gets off the throttle very aggressively to really get the car to turn in for this corner. It's because you want to get rid of any understeer as soon as possible for this corner, and you want to make sure that you're hitting this apex, and when you get on throttle you're not going to run wide. And for the curb usage here, you do not want to get your tyres over this little ledge part of the curb, because if you do that and you come back over it, the car will bounce around the front and you'll either A, oversteer, or B, have a lot of understeer. So it can really unsettle the car if you use that much curb on entry. Go up to the exit. As you can see, he's opting to use the sausage curb. In cars like the Lambo, you can just touch it, but it's always probably a safer suggestion to stay off it in general. And then if you should you run a bit wide, you know, go over the sausage curb slightly, as long as you're back on track before this little grey circle just here, you won't get the off track. Heading into another very tricky corner this week is the right-hander into the arena section. This is very tricky because there is no sort of area for a braking marker. There's nowhere we can go, yeah, that's where I'm braking, because of how bare bones the track is here. So it's very, very feel-based. However, anyway, I'll show you, this is the point where Mike starts to brake. So should you guys see anything around this point that you seem as a place for a braking marker, you can use that. So he hops on to about 50% very shortly, gets straight back off, and he's using this, the brakes to trail the car through. Mike uses a lot of the inside curb here. Not up to the grass, but he's still using quite a lot of it through here. Again, it's he's aggressively up back onto the throttle to 50%, and then from there he's very smooth with applying it up to 100%. Uses all the track on exit, and there's a lot of time to be gained here by being brave, running out as far as you can. The car can get a bit unsettled as you travel across this sort of part of the exit here, just where these two curbs start to meet each other, because when you get to around here, you've got your wheels dipping off the end of the left-hand curb, and then the wheels dipping off onto this curb here, and it can really unsettle the car, so you need to be prepared for that. Right, and then into the hairpin. In order to not be like Vettel, you want to be braking just before the 50 board, up to about 50% maximum. And again, he's being very aggressive with the trail braking, dipping down to 20 right before he gets to the corner. Still trail braking quite hard through this corner. You see, for a quiet moment he's balanced. For a very, very small amount of time, he's finally off the brake and he's not accelerating, which is very rare to do that in this car. Picks up the throttle quite aggressively on exit. Has to just come back off, because as you go higher up the track here, as the banking falls away, the rear end of the car, even with the McLaren, will still get a bit unstable. So you have to be very careful for that. And then in through this left-hander, you want to be cutting this quite a bit. Obviously not onto the grass, but it'll help you get the car positioned more over to the left this section here. So Mike seems to brake just as the curb comes up on the left. And then as he does this, he's just braking a tiny, tiny bit, up to 30%, back down again. And again, like the other corners, he's using a short spike of braking and then trail braking to get the car to hook up and drive around the corners. See, trail braking all the way up to the apex, just gets off it, back on the throttle, up to 100%, almost up to 100%, because this corner has a lot of understeer. So he runs up to it, just goes over this curb. You can't come at it too quickly, otherwise it can cause issues. However, just running over it like that's just fine. Go on board again. You see that he lifts off just to get the car rotated in first, and then as soon as he feels like this car's hooked up to the inside, because you see, look, he gets back on the throttle, realises the car, you know, is going to a bit understeer, so it's okay to get back off the throttle. He does it just to get the car to hook up a bit better, then he can get back on the throttle, and then he uses all of the exit, and that is a lap in the McLaren at Hockenheim.